Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about a very important topic. The day I understood English for the first time. It was a sunny morning, just like any other day. I woke up feeling tired and unmotivated. Learning English had always been a challenge for me. I could read some words, but I never really understood what people were saying. I felt like English was a language made just to confuse me. I got dressed slowly, thinking about how I would survive another English class. My teacher always spoke too fast, and I couldn't follow anything. Even when I studied at home, it didn't seem to help. I started to wonder if I would ever speak English fluently. It felt impossible. At school, I sat at my desk, watching the other students chat in English. Some of them were so confident. I listened closely, hoping to catch a word or two. But everything sounded like noise. My heart sank a little every time I failed to understand. When the teacher walked in, she greeted us in English as usual. "Good morning, class," she said with a smile. Everyone responded except me. I just nodded, pretending I understood. I hated that feeling, being the only one lost in a sea of words. That day, something was different. The teacher played a video. It was a simple story with pictures, music, and slow speech. I sat up straight and tried to listen. I didn't expect anything to change, but it did. Chapter 2. Something changed. As the video played, I started to hear words I recognized. Boys' school, apple, and happy. These were words I had learned before, but this time they sounded clear. The pictures matched the words perfectly. It was like my brain was finally connecting the dots. I focused more. The boy in the video said, "I am happy today." And I understood it. Not just the words, but the meaning. I smiled to myself, a real smile, not a fake one. It was the first time I had ever felt proud in an English class. It was like discovering a secret code I had finally learned to read. When the video ended, the teacher asked some questions. Normally, I would stay quiet, but this time I raised my hand. "He is happy," I said, pointing to the screen. The teacher's eyes lit up. "Yes, that's right," she said. Everyone looked at me, and I didn't even care. I had spoken English, and I had been understood. I couldn't stop smiling. My friends gave me thumbs up, and I felt like I had passed a big test. For the first time, English didn't feel like a monster. It felt like a key to understanding more of the world. That day after class, I went home feeling different. I wasn't afraid of English anymore. I opened my notebook and started to write simple sentences. I'm a student. I like English. It felt natural, like my brain had finally opened a door. Chapter 3. A New Motivation. The next morning, I was excited to go to school. I even woke up before my alarm. I wanted to watch more videos, listen more, and understand more. My mind felt ready. I was hungry to learn. It was like discovering a new game, and I wanted to master every level. In class, I paid attention to every word the teacher said. Even if I didn't understand everything, I didn't give up. I wrote down new words and tried to guess their meanings from the pictures or actions. Every word was a puzzle, and I was enjoying solving them. I also started using English outside of school. I watched cartoons with English subtitles. I listened to English songs and repeated the lyrics. I talked to myself in the mirror, practicing simple phrases like, "How are you?" and "What's your name?" It felt silly, but it helped. My family noticed the change in me. "You seem happier," my mom said. I told her I was starting to understand English. She smiled and said she was proud. That made me feel even better. I wasn't just learning for school. I was learning for me. That night, I wrote in my journal. Today, I learned 10 new words. I spoke English to my friend. I watched a video in English. These were small victories, but to me, they were huge. I was building confidence one sentence at a time. Chapter 4. My first real conversation. A week later, something amazing happened. I was walking in the park when I heard two tourists talking in English. They looked lost. One of them asked, "Excuse me, do you know where the library is?" I froze for a second, then remembered what I had learned. I took a deep breath and said, "Yes, the library is near the school. Go straight and turn left." They smiled and said, "Thank you." I couldn't believe it. I had just helped someone using English. I felt like a superhero. That moment stayed with me. Back at school, I told my teacher what had happened. She clapped her hands and said, "That's amazing." She asked me to tell the class, and I did. I was a little nervous, but everyone listened. My story inspired others who were also struggling with English. I realized that learning English wasn't just about grammar or vocabulary. It was about connection, being able to talk to someone, to help them, to understand and be understood. That was powerful. I started seeing English not as a subject, but as a bridge. From that day on, I wasn't afraid of making mistakes. I knew that mistakes were part of learning. I kept practicing, reading, speaking, and listening. And each time I understood something new, it felt like magic. Chapter 5. Speaking without fear. Every day, I practiced speaking English even when I was alone. I looked at objects in my room and said their names in English. This is a chair. That is a book. I am in my room. It felt funny at first, but it helped me think in English. I was building new habits. One day, the teacher asked for volunteers to act out a short dialogue in front of the class. I raised my hand. My heart was beating fast, but I wanted to try. I went to the front and spoke with another student. "Hello, my name is Alex. What's your name?" I said with confidence. After the dialogue, everyone clapped. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't just understanding English, I was speaking it. The fear I used to feel was now a small voice in the back of my head. It no longer controlled me. I had taken a big step. At home, I told my family everything. My dad smiled and said, "I'm proud of you, son." I felt like I was growing, not just in language, but in courage. I knew that every word I spoke was helping me get closer to fluency. I slept peacefully that night. My mind was full of English words and happy thoughts. I dreamed of traveling one day and speaking English with people from around the world. For the first time, that dream felt real and possible. Chapter 6. The Challenge. A few days later, our teacher gave us a challenge. You will work in pairs and make a short presentation in English, she said. At first, I felt nervous again. Could I really speak for 2 or 3 minutes in front of everyone? But then I remembered how far I had come. I teamed up with a friend who also wanted to improve. We chose to talk about our favorite food. We wrote simple sentences and practiced every afternoon. My favorite food is pizza. I like cheese and pepperoni. What is your favorite food? The more we practiced, the easier it became. When the presentation day came, I was still a little scared, but also excited. We stood in front of the class and began. I focused on speaking slowly and clearly. I looked at my classmates, and to my surprise, they were smiling and listening. When we finished, the teacher said, "Excellent work." My classmates clapped, and I felt proud again. This wasn't the same person who once sat quietly, afraid to say a word in English. I was becoming someone new, someone brave. After class, my friend and I celebrated. "We did it," he said. "Yes, we did," I replied. That challenge showed me that I was capable of more than I thought. Learning English was no longer just a goal. It was a journey I loved being on. Chapter 7. The Moment I Knew. One evening, I was watching a movie in English with subtitles. Something incredible happened. I started understanding without reading the subtitles. Not everything, but many sentences made sense just by listening. My eyes widened in surprise. A character said, "Don't worry, everything will be fine," and I understood it completely. That was the moment I knew I had truly changed. I had gone from not understanding anything to understanding full sentences. I paused the movie and just smiled. I thought about the first day I felt lost in class. Now, I was watching a movie and laughing at the jokes. I could follow the story. I wasn't just memorizing words anymore. I was thinking in English. It was the best feeling in the world. That night, I wrote in my journal again. Today, I watched a movie in English. I understood it. I didn't give up, and now I see how far I've come. I closed my notebook with a proud heart. The day I understood English for the first time had changed my life. But now, it was more than just one day. It was the start of a new chapter, a new version of me, someone who believes, someone who understands, and someone who never gives up. Chapter 8, My English World. My days started to revolve around English in ways I never imagined before. I would wake up in the morning and listen to English music while brushing my teeth. During breakfast, I would read short English news articles or watch cartoons. It felt exciting to understand things that once seemed impossible. My brain was adjusting to a new rhythm. A language that had once been so foreign was becoming a part of my daily life. I was no longer afraid of English. I was surrounded by it, and I loved every second of it. In school, I became more active in class. I asked questions, answered with confidence, and even helped my classmates when they struggled with something. One of them said, "How do you understand English so well now?" And I smiled, remembering the days when I didn't understand anything at all. I practiced every day, even when it was hard. I said, that simple answer was the truth. My progress didn't come from magic. It came from persistence. I realized that English is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent and brave enough to keep trying. One afternoon, our teacher gave us an English book to read at home. It was a story about a boy who wanted to be a pilot. As I read each page, I realized I could follow the story without needing to translate every word. The images in my head appeared automatically as I read in English. I no longer needed to think in my native language first. That moment made me pause. "I'm thinking in English," I whispered to myself. I had heard people talk about that switch, and I had just experienced it. I started writing short stories in English in my free time. Some were funny, some were about my life, and others were just my imagination running wild. It became a hobby I looked forward to. My teacher even read one of my stories aloud in class and said, "This is amazing." I blushed, but deep inside I felt proud. English was now a way for me to express my ideas and dreams, not just a school subject. I had turned it into something personal. That night, as I lay in bed, I remembered the first video that changed everything. I couldn't stop thinking about how one small moment of understanding had led me here. The day I understood English for the first time was the day a new version of me was born. And now I was walking in that new life with confidence, creativity, and curiosity. Chapter 9. Helping Others Learn. One morning, a younger student approached me in the hallway. He looked nervous and shy, the same way I used to look when I first tried to speak English. He said, "Do you understand English?" I nodded and smiled. "Yes, I do. Do you need help?" His eyes lit up. "Yes. I don't understand the class." That was the moment I realized I had come full circle. I wasn't just a learner anymore. I was someone who could teach and support others. I started spending time with him after school. We read simple books, watched short videos, and practiced dialogues. I told him the same things I once needed to hear. Don't be afraid. Make mistakes. Repeat the words out loud. You'll get better. And I could see his eyes brighten just like mine once did. I saw myself in him. And I wanted to be the person I once needed. Someone who believed in me even when I didn't. The school began noticing my progress, and the principal invited me to speak at an event for English Week. I stood on the stage, microphone in hand, and looked at the crowd of students and teachers. My heart raced, but my voice was clear. There was a time when I didn't understand one word of English, I said, but I kept listening. I kept practicing, and now I'm here, speaking to all of you. If I can do it, so can you. The applause that followed felt like the greatest reward. After that event, more students came to me for help. I didn't have all the answers, but I had the experience. I knew what it felt like to be lost and confused, and I knew how powerful it was to have someone guide you, even a little. I made it my mission to help others find their own day of understanding just like I had. I realized that learning a language is not just about you. It's about how you use that gift to connect with others, to open doors, and to inspire those who are still on their path. English had become more than just a skill. It was now a bridge I could offer to others. Chapter 10. The New Me. 1 year after the day I first understood English, I stood in front of the mirror and smiled. I didn't just see a student anymore. I saw a confident speaker, a storyteller, and someone who could face challenges. I remembered how I used to be afraid of English words, how I used to hide in the back of the classroom, and now I was someone people came to for help. It felt like a transformation, and I had created it myself. My English journey was not over. It would never be over. Language keeps growing, and so do we. But now, I wasn't afraid of what I didn't know. I was excited to learn more. I watched movies without subtitles, read books in English, and even dreamed in English. It had become a part of me, and not just the language, but everything that came with it. The confidence, the courage, and the belief that I could do more than I ever imagined. One of the best moments came when I received a letter of acceptance to an international student program. It was written in English. I read every line with ease, understanding every word. My family was so proud, and I was too. That letter wasn't just an invitation to study abroad. It was a symbol of how far I had come. I packed my things for the trip with a heart full of hope. I knew there would be challenges, but I also knew I had the tools to face them. I wasn't just learning English anymore. I was living it. I was stepping into a new world with open eyes, an open heart, and a voice that could now speak clearly, proudly, and with purpose. And so, the day I understood English for the first time was not the end. It was the beginning of a new life. A life full of opportunities, stories, and conversations waiting to happen. I will always remember that moment as the spark that changed everything. And now, I walk forward with English by my side, not as a stranger, but as a friend. Chapter 11. My first trip abroad. The day I landed in a new country, I felt like I was living a dream. Everything was different. The people, the streets, the food, the signs. And yet, I felt calm because the language wasn't foreign to me anymore. When I arrived at the airport, I understood every instruction and spoke clearly with the immigration officer. I didn't have to translate in my head or feel anxious about my pronunciation. That was the first time I truly appreciated how far I had come. English wasn't just something I studied. It had become a part of me. I met people from many different countries in the program, and the one thing we all had in common was English. We used it to connect, laugh, and share our stories. It didn't matter that our accents were different or that we made small mistakes. What mattered was that we could communicate. And as we spent more time together, I realized something important. English wasn't just about grammar and vocabulary. It was about people. It was about connection, empathy, and understanding others' experiences. One afternoon, we went on a city tour, and I volunteered to translate some parts for a student who didn't speak much English. As I spoke, I felt proud, not just of my words, but of the confidence behind them. Later, she said, "You're really good at explaining things." That compliment stayed with me. I realized that the best way to master a language is to use it for others, not just for yourself. At night, I sat by the window of my dorm, looking at the city lights and thinking about everything that had changed. A year ago, I wouldn't have understood a single word on a street sign here. And now, I was living in this world, not as a visitor, but as someone who belonged. I wasn't perfect, but I was present, and that was enough. That trip changed more than my language. It changed my view of the world. It made me see that learning English opened doors not only to countries, but to cultures, friendships, and dreams I never imagined possible. Chapter 12. Speaking in front of a crowd. Back in my home country, I was invited to a youth conference focused on learning languages. They asked me to be one of the speakers. At first, I panicked. I had never spoken in front of so many people, especially not in English. But then I remembered everything I had gone through. I had survived confusion, embarrassment, and frustration, and I had turned all of that into progress. I spent days preparing my speech. I wrote every word carefully, practicing it in front of the mirror. I imagined the faces of students who were still afraid to speak English. I wanted them to know that it was possible to improve, no matter how lost they felt at the beginning. On the day of the event, I stood backstage with my heart beating fast, holding my notes with trembling hands. When I stepped onto the stage, the lights were bright and the room was silent. I took a deep breath and began. A year ago, I couldn't speak English at all. Today, I'm standing here because I never gave up. As I continued, I saw people nodding, some even smiling. I told them about the video that changed my life, the teacher who encouraged me, and the day I finally understood English. When I finished, the entire room applauded. I felt a rush of emotion, joy, pride, relief. Many students came up to me afterward to thank me. Some said my story gave them hope. That moment taught me the real power of English, not just to pass a test or travel, but to inspire and move others. It was more than just a language. It was a gift. That night, I wrote in my journal, I used to be afraid of speaking English. Now, I use it to speak to the world. Chapter 13. English in Everyday Life. After that conference, English became a part of my everyday life in ways I never imagined. I started watching documentaries, reading articles about science and history, and even joining online forums where I could share my ideas in English. These activities weren't assignments. They were habits. They helped me grow, not just in language, but in knowledge and confidence. At home, I changed the language of my phone and computer to English. I helped my little brother with his English homework and encouraged my parents to learn some basic phrases too. It became a family journey. My dad would ask me, "How do you say this?" And we would laugh at his pronunciation, but always with love. Language became a way to connect us even more. One of my favorite moments was when I got a part-time job helping tourists. My job was simple: guide them, answer their questions, and make them feel welcome. Every day, I used English with people from all over the world. Sometimes I didn't know a word, but I would find another way to explain it. I learned that real fluency isn't about knowing every word. It's about not giving up when you don't. English also helped me discover new passions. I started following international creators on YouTube, reading blogs from different countries, and even trying recipes in English. Every time I read or heard something new, it felt like my world was expanding. I wasn't just learning English, I was living it in everything I did. The best part was realizing that I didn't need to be in an English-speaking country to keep improving. The language was everywhere, waiting to be used, heard, and enjoyed. And I had finally learned how to make it part of my life, not just my studies. Chapter 14, Teaching and Learning. As time went on, more people began asking me to help them with English. At first, I felt unsure. Was I good enough to teach others? But the more I helped, the more I realized that I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to be honest, patient, and encouraging. I remembered every fear, every doubt, and every victory from my own journey. That gave me the power to guide others with empathy. I started a small English club at my school. We met once a week to practice conversations, share tips, and play games. It wasn't formal or academic. It was fun and full of laughter. The students felt safe to make mistakes, and I was there to support them. We talked about travel, dreams, and even our favorite songs in English. Those meetings became the highlight of my week. Eventually, I made videos to explain the basics of English pronunciation and grammar. I uploaded them online and was surprised by how many people watched and thanked me. Some said, "You speak in a way that's easy to understand." That was one of the best compliments I could receive. I didn't want to sound fancy. I wanted to be real, just like the video that helped me in the beginning. Each time I helped someone understand something new, I felt a special joy. It was like giving them the same key that had once opened the door for me. I was no longer just a student. I had become a mentor, a guide, and a friend in their English journey. And through teaching, I learned even more. Because the best way to master something is to share it. And English had now become something I didn't just keep, I passed it on. Chapter 15, Looking Back, Moving Forward. One evening, I sat down with a cup of tea and opened my old English notebook. The pages were full of mistakes, scribbles, and messy translations. But instead of feeling embarrassed, I smiled. Each line told a story of growth, of effort, and of not giving up. I saw how far I'd come, not just in language, but in life. I thought about the day I first understood English. That simple moment had changed everything. It gave me the confidence to try, the courage to fail, and the strength to keep going. And now, years later, that moment was still with me, like a light that had never gone out. It had guided me through every challenge and helped me find my purpose. Looking ahead, I knew there was still so much more to learn. New words, new expressions, new ways to use English in the real world. But I didn't feel nervous. I felt excited. Because now, English wasn't a wall. It was a door. And I had the key. I made a promise to myself that night. I would keep growing, keep sharing, and keep believing. I would help others find their day of understanding and remind them that it's never too late to start. That one moment can change a life. And for me, it already had.